where Porter Ranch comes to talk. Talk Radio 790 KABC.
This is Stephen K. Bannon, the Victory Sessions. My co-host in studio is Mike Silver, Chairman and CEO of American Elements. We have as our guest Dr. Stephen Lieb, author of Red Alert, How China's Growing Prosperity Threatens the American Way of Life. Dr. Lieb, you make an incredibly compelling case in this book about commodities in China and how China's now, that the manufacturing, the implosion of American manufacturing is directly linked to our economic problem, and that's directly linked to commodities in China. Do you want to walk us through that?
Well, sure. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, if you go back to 1999, for example, beginning of the century, and you ask 100 economists, suppose unemployment in America is 9% and housing starts are about 500,000, what's going to be the price of oil and what's going to be the price of copper? And the chances are everyone would say that those prices are going to be less than they were in the 1990s. That is maybe 60, 70 cents for copper and maybe $15 or $10 a barrel for the price of oil. Yet oil today is close to $100. In fact, if you look at Brent oil, it's over $100. And if you go to your gasoline station, you know that it's very, very high. It's not like $1. I mean, which is what you would expect in times gone by. If the economy is really in the pits, gasoline, oil prices go way down. No, they've gone way up instead. Copper prices, even more amazing, are about $3.30. And that's a remarkable number, given that there are no housing starts in the U.S. We've had a housing depression. There's no doubt about it. Yet copper prices are really, 4 or 5 times what they were on average during the 1990s. These prices for not just copper and oil, but virtually any commodity that you can name, including foods, are a major tax on the American consumer. So much of a tax that if you look at the bottom 20% of our economy right now, you'll find that just basic energy and food costs are more than 50% of their income. And what's true for the bottom 20% is soon going to be true for 50% of this economy. And the reason that's happening is because China is consuming massive amounts of these resources, and they're going to continue to consume them. And this is sort of the point that I'm trying to make. The only way any country can get around, let's say, the scarcity or growing scarcity of hydrocarbons, and they are getting scarce, whether you're talking about oil or you're talking about coal, is to get into renewable energies or to alternative energies. I don't care whether they're nuclear, whether it's hydro, whether it's solar, whether it's wind. And these energies, they're not free. Yes, wind is free, the sun is free, but what you need to build equipment to capture these energies require massive amounts of resources, oil, silver, rare earths, for instance. I mean, this is where we are today relative to China. You cannot build a wind turbine, or at least scale wind turbines, unless you have what Michael was talking about, those heavy rare earths that are essential for magnets. You cannot build hybrid cars unless you have heavy rare earths. China, with 97% of heavy rare earths, basically have shut us out of wind. China right now, as we've been reading a little bit recently, is shutting us out of solar because they're underpricing us in terms of polysilicon. Almost surely they're accumulating silver, which is absolutely essential for solar. And in the New York Times, I would say about a week or two ago, front page, it's right there in front of everybody. Desalinization, fresh water is obviously going to be critical to this world. If we want to grow enough food to satisfy 7 million people, even satisfy ourselves, you're going to need fresh water. Well, China is doing to desalinization, undercutting in terms of price. They're selling fresh water 50 cents on the dollar using the latest desalinization equipment, which means that no U.S. company can afford to get into this industry because they'll start losing money.